Today we're making a Loom Knit headband. This is a feather lace headband that ties in the back here on GoodKnit Kisses. Welcome to GoodKnit Kisses. We're all about helping you stitch your love and love your stitches. The feather lace headband is made with a knitting loom. I'm using a 3/8 gauge loom with at least 16 pegs. I've got the knitting board all-in-one loom. You can also use the smaller basics loom, and it's a little bit larger gauge. And then there's also the 28-inch loom. Now I'm using for the yarn Bernat Baby Sport. This is color Lilac, and this is a number 2 weight or DK weight or sport weight yarn. You're also going to need a measuring tape, some scissors, your loom hook, a tapestry needle, and some stitch markers. I suggest you get one locking stitch marker that can kind of be moved around a lot, and then 4 other stitch markers. 2 are for the ends to indicate these purls, and then 2 are to indicate some yarn overs. All right, grab your supplies, and I'll see you in a moment. To get pattern and supplies, click on the link in the description below. So we're going to start by making our I-cord and casting on 3 stitches. Just wrap around your finger twice, take the back loop over the front, and one more time up and over the tip of your finger, and that makes a slip knot, or make it however you like. I'm just going to place that on one of these stitches in the middle here, and now we're going to cast on by E-wrapping the next 2 pegs. So 1, 2, and then we're going to flat knit all 3 of these pegs. I'm just going to lay my yarn over the front and start knitting. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so we're ready for row 1 of the I-cord. We just take our yarn from the back, go around all 3 pegs, come around to the front of all 3 pegs, move my yarn, and so we're just going in all in a circle. So from the back to the front and around again, and then we just knit all 3 of these pegs. And that is row 1. And you're just going to continue repeating row 1 until you get your desired length. I'm going to knit a few more of these rows so that you can see how it stacks up. And you'll notice that it's kind of flat in the back and kind of small for a little bit. And as you start knitting about 1 inch, you can pull on it, and you'll see that it starts getting actually longer. So it's kind of squished up at the beginning. So you're going to be knitting to 11 inches. But if you wait to pull on this I-cord, you will have knit way too much. So you want to keep track of it by knitting a little bit and then just pulling on it and see how it stretches. And that's what you want. You want this nice rounded cord here. Okay, you can use this for many things. This is simply how to do it. So go ahead and keep knitting row 1 until you get to 11 inches right there, and pause your video. I'll meet you back up to make the increases. All right, we're ready to begin our increases. Row 2 is E-wrap all, and this will take you back to the beginning of the row. You want to do these loosely because we're going to be making stitches soon. So we're going to E-wrap all of these. Okay, make sure that they're nice and loose. I tend to get a little too tight sometimes. So we're going to E-wrap 1, 2, 3. Okay, so row 3 is E-wrap 1. Okay. And then we're going to make 1 left. And then we're going to U-knit, and we're going to make 1 right, and then E-wrap. So that's 3 stitches here, and so we're going to be increasing to 5 stitches. So we're going to pick up this E-wrap stitch and move it over, okay? And then we want to look in the back, and the best way to do it is actually look at this stitch that we have not worked yet, and you can find this little bar back here. Do you see this bar coming out from the stitch? It actually is connected to this piece here, so the front of the stitch here. So we're going to grab this bar. Okay, now instead of just placing it on our peg to create a stitch, we need to twist it. So for the make right and make left, it's all in how you twist it. Now there are some instructions or videos that show going counterclockwise or clockwise. I think that's a little confusing. So I want to show you the trick that I remember on how to make 1 left or right. So to make 1 left, we're going to come around the right side of it And the main thing to remember is we're flipping it toward the left. So we're going to flip it up and over this peg to the left. So we're going to take it, okay, between these two pegs, and then we're going to flip it or twist it over that peg and place it. You see how it twists? And then now you're going to knit that stitch. And I'm just making a Uwrap knit stitch. Some people E-wrap it. It's okay if you just knit the stitch, and then it won't be twisted. It'll be a standard looking stitch. Now we want to knit this next stitch. So we're Uwrap knitting this stitch, okay? And we want to make a stitch between these two. So we're going to be picking up this last stitch, and this is where it comes in that you had a nice loose stitch. We're going to pick that up and move it over to give some space. Okay, so put that there. And now we want to make one right. Go find the bar. Okay, this is the stitch that we want to be working with. So we're going to find the stitch that leads from here. So this is the bar. Let's see. Yep, that's the bar. Okay. And now we want to, instead of just picking it up and over, we're going to go from the left side of that. Okay. And then we're going to flip up and over and twist it onto this peg. Now, if you need a little bit more slack, you can kind of pull on your yarn back here. Let me move this out of the way so you can see it. We're pulling on it, go in between these stitches, and then we're going to flip it up and over. You may need your other hand for this. And we're just twisting it and placing it. Sometimes I need to work with the tip of it. So I'm going to put my tip here. And then place it like this. There we go. Okay. All right, so that is make one right, and then we need to knit that stitch, and then the last stitch we're going to Ewrap knit. Okay. Now the reason we have a mix of E-wraps and U-knit stitches is because of this particular stitch pattern. It needs a little bit more of a gap on the side stitches here, and then these need to be nice and tight. So all the E-wrap stitches are in the middle. All the U-wrap knit stitches that are tighter are in the middle, and then the outside are E-wrap. Okay. So now we're going to move on to row 4. After you've made your first increase row, of course you have 5 stitches, and then we're going to be purling 2 and knitting the middle stitches and then purling 2. So all of the other stitches are going to increase on every other row when we return. So the only thing that happens on this return row is purl 2, knit in the middle to the last two stitches, and then we're going to be purling 2. So you need to make sure that these are loose because we're going to be increasing more. So we're going to go ahead and purl 2. And just do it kind of loose. And then knit 1. Make sure it's nice and loose. And then purl 2. 1, 2. All right. And now we want to increase to 7. So we're going to Ewrap 2. And go ahead and just Ewrap 1 and move it. And then Ewrap the next one and move it. And we'll do another make one left. So go ahead and we'll do this next row together. We're going to pick up that yarn that's in between. We're going to take it between these pegs on the right and flip it over to the left like that. Go ahead and knit it. Okay. Then we're going to knit 1. And then we're going to make one right. So we're going to move these stitches over to the right. So this is where it helps to be nice and loose. Move that over. And move the next one over. Okay. And then we're going to make one right. So we're going to grab this stitch in between this leading yarn and pull that out and put it in between on the left and move it over to the right. There we go. And then knit this stitch and then Ewrap the last 2 stitches. 1 and 2. Okay, and that'll make it nice and loose end stitches in Ewrap, and the middle ones will be knit. So we're going to bring our yarn forward and make the return row by purl 2, 1, 2, and knit to the last 2 stitches, 1, 2, 3. Make sure those are nice and loose, so kind of go back if you think you were a little bit tight, and purl these 2. And we're going to be increasing to 9 stitches on the next row. And then we'll be increasing 2 more and 2 more, and you're just going to continue increasing until you get to 15 stitches. So continue that repeat. Pause your video. I'll meet you back when you have 15 stitches on your loom. See you in a moment. All right, so we're going to finish out this last row here. This is, you may have already finished it out. This is where I'm purling, and this is a great place to go ahead and put in some stitch markers. Now, these orange stitch markers I am using to outline where the purl rows are, or the purl stitches are. So as I pick this one up, I'm going to go ahead and place this one on. Okay, so it's the second from the end on actually both ends. And I want to show you how to make this a loose row. Okay, now I talked about this on my feather lace stitch video, but I'm going to do it here. If you Uwrap knit this and then hold your tool in the back, as you wrap the next U-knit wrap, it actually allows for extra slack in your yarn, and then you can knit it over as you hold it. So we're going to hold it with our loom tool, wrap around with our finger, keep holding it with my finger, knit up and over, and then hold it again. And that way these are loose. And the reason why you want to do that is because this next row, we're going to be moving stitches around. So you need to be loose on your returning row. Go ahead and do that. If you've already done it, make sure that you've got a little bit extra slack. So if you want to kind of pull on your stitches and make sure that they're loose for the next part, go ahead and do that. And then when you get down to the end, put on that extra stitch marker on the second peg from the end. I'll do that now. Oh. There we go. All right, purl this, put on my stitch marker, and purl the last stitch. Okay, we're now ready for our feather lace stitch pattern. Okay, there's also a chart in the pattern on the blog as well, or on Ravelry too. Okay, so we're going to E-wrap the first stitch here and E-wrap the second stitch. Okay, that's it for our border stitches. Then we're going to U-knit the next 2 stitches. 1, 2. Okay, then we want to yarn over and then U-knit the next 2 stitches and then slip knit. So we're going to be having an increase of a yarn over, so we have to move stitches to make this happen, but we don't actually have to move these here. There's a slip knit which works 2 stitches together down here. There's also a knit 2 together right next to it, so those 2 are decreases, and then there's another yarn over increase over here. So what I like to do is go ahead and set up the loom for where the yarn overs are for this very first row. And the way I do that is I pick up the stitch that's going to be the yarn over and set this in, okay, and then just replace it. And then we're going to come down and note that the next 2 stitches are going to be knit, okay, and then this is the decrease stitch, then there's the next decrease stitch, and then we have 2 more knit stitches, 1, 2, and then this is our yarn over here. So we're going to pick this up, so this is 2 from the other stitch marker, and place it down. Okay, so this very first, this is actually row 9 in our pattern. This very first row is setting the yarn overs for this row. When we get to row 11, they're going to shift over 1, and that's why we have a movable stitch marker. And I'll show you how to do that in a moment. For now, you can go ahead and put this movable stitch marker right on top of the other one. Okay, and you'll see why that's used later on. All right, we want to move these stitches over. So we're going to be moving this stitch and this one over to slip knit. So the stitch here on the left and here on the right, these 2 stitches are working together. And we want to put the left stitch on our hook And we're going to put the left stitch on this peg over here, the right one. So lay that down, and we're making a left leaning decrease. In a left leaning decrease, the peg or stitch from the left goes on first, and then we put the stitch from the right on top, and those get worked together. Now we want to move these other stitches down. So we're just going to move them right on down, and then that frees up an open peg for our yarn over. Let's go ahead and work those now. So we're going to Ewrap yarn over, then we're going to knit this peg, and we're going to knit the next peg, and then we're going to knit both of these together for the slip slip knit. And you can lift them one over at a time if you want to. Go ahead at this point, if you want a nice open lace work like this, then go ahead and take off the yarn over, because now it's nice and loose, and just put it in the front, okay? And that'll keep it nice and loose. If you want it closed off, it's going to be more like something like this, where the lace work isn't as open, okay? And then now we want to knit two together. So we want this stitch on top of this one, but we have to get them both over here. So we can pick this up and then put this one on top of this one, and then place this back down. However, it can be really tight. So I'm going to show you a trick if it's tight. We're actually going to knit the first one. So knit the one on the left and put it on top of the one on the right. So the left is still on top of the right one, because this is a right leaning decrease, so the right one goes on bottom. So we're going to knit up and over. Now we can pick it up and place it right there, and we have an open stitch. Okay, so we're going to now move these others over, and you can actually knit them and then move them over. When you do that though, I like to kind of pull on them, make them a little tighter before I place it, or right after I place it, I tighten it up. Okay, so we're going to knit those two stitches, move them over, and that frees up an empty peg here, and see, it's marked. So now we want to E-wrap it, and then we're going to knit the next stitch up and over, and now we're on to our border. So we want to go ahead and lift up and over this yarn over, just take it off and then lay it right in front so it's nice and loose, and then we're going to work our border stitches by E-wrapping. Okay, and having this stitch up marker on here is great, because once you get used to the pattern, you won't actually have to look at the paper pattern or electronic pattern anymore. You'll just know that these are always E-wrapped on the end. And now we make our return row, where all we're doing is purling 2, 1, 2, and then Uwrap Knit to the last 2 stitches. So we're going to do our little trick to make it nice and loose. Okay, and when we have 2 stitches left, we'll purl those. Oops. You see that stitch marker, and now we know that this is purl. Okay, now I've just finished with my yarn overs here. I am going to move my stitch marker over to the left. I'm just moving it over 1. Now, you could have another movable stitch marker here and move it over. I choose to not do that because it's harder for me to remember. I just use this one and then know when I get down here, this is going to shift over 1. Okay, so if I don't see it here and I know I've worked this, then I know I'm moving it. Anyway, you'll see here in a moment. So go ahead and E-wrap these first 2 stitches, okay, and knit this next stitch. Okay, so if you have to put down your work, then you've already started this row and you know that you've moved this into the right position. And this is a great little tip for if you have to put it down, you're like, I'm not sure which one I'm on. Just know that you've already set this up to start that. You can also look in the back and pull on your work, and you can see that there's a bit of a hole back here, and you can see, oh, I did this one as the yarn over last time, so now this one needs to be the yarn over. So it's the same as we did before, except it's just shifted over 1. So instead of knitting 2, we're just knitting 1, and then this is where we're moving them. So we're going to shift over, skip 1, 2 stitches, pick these up, and we're going to move them for a slip slip knit. So we're going to place the left on the right peg, and then place the right one back down, move the stitches over, Ewrap yarn over, knit 2, slip slip knit. You're working these together, and now we need to knit 2 together. So put the left one on top of the right one by knitting it first, and then lift up and over for the right, pick it up, move it over to that empty peg on the left, and now move the next 2 stitches, or you can knit them first, knit, knit. You have an empty peg for a yarn over, and it's confirmed when I glance over here. So yarn over and knit that next stitch, and then knit the next stitch. And before you go on, go ahead and unwrap these yarn overs. You can do them whenever you want. I just recommend doing them before you get to the end of the row. Okay, that way they're nice and open. And then E-wrap the last 2 stitches. And then your return row, you just purl 1, 2, and knit till 2 stitches remain, and then purl the last 2 stitches. Okay, and so you are going to repeat rows 9 through 12 until the work from the beginning of the headband increase. This little tip part here, right here, measures approximately 14.5 inches, and I'll show it to you longer in a moment. So it's this little tip part here to the top, and we'll talk about how it's stretched out or not in the next segment. All right, pause your video, and I'll see you when you have more length. See you soon. So as you knit your length, of course, it's going to be really stretched out widthwise here, but then it gets skinnier as it goes down. Before you start measuring, just kind of pull on your feather here, and it will elongate these stitches to make it look more like a feather. And when you end up blocking it, it'll open these holes back up and make this flat. But once you get that kind of pulled and stretched out, then measure. So don't measure until you kind of pull on this. You can also take it off the loom if you want. This is just an approximation. So from this point here where we started increasing to this point in the back here, it's going to be measured 14.5 inches. That is from the tip down here, it's going to add an extra 11 inches, so we're at 25.5 inches total. All right, so once you have 25.5 inches total, we're ready for the decrease. Let's start that now. Okay, so we are ready to decrease. We're on row 13. We're going to E-wrap 2 and slip slip knit. So we're going to E-wrap 1, 2, and then we're going to slip slip knit and move these stitches in. So we're going to pick this up here and here, place the left one down first, and then the one on the right, and then move over these stitches. Okay. All right, and then we're going to work these 2 stitches together for the slip slip knit. All right, and now our next one is we're going to Uwrap knit to the last 4 stitches. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The last 4 stitches, we want a K2 tog or knit 2 together. So we're going to pick these stitches up and move the right one over to the left. It's going to be a little tight here. All right, otherwise we can do our trick from before. All right, knit these 2 stitches together. And then E-wrap these last 2 stitches. So E-wrap it, and you can pick it up and move it, and E-wrap it, pick it up and move it. All right, row 14, we're going to purl 2 and Uwrap knit to the last 2 stitches and purl those 2, just as we've done on all these other rows. So go ahead and work yours, pause the video as needed. Oops. Purl the last two. So after you finish row 14, you're going to repeat rows 13 and 14 3 more times and work your way down to 7 stitches. You have 13 stitches on there now. We're going to go down to 7. Pause your video and I'll meet you back up for row 15. Okay, so for row 15, we're going to Ewrap 1, and then we'll slip knit and put the left underneath the right. And then work that stitch together. Go ahead and move this one down. Pull up any slack that you need to. There we go. And then this one is going to be 1 Uwrap. So Uwrap knit once, and then we're going to knit 2 together. That right one's on the bottom. Move it over. And then Ewrap knit that last stitch. And you should be at 5 stitches. Now we're going to purl back, just 2 stitches, and then Uwrap knit the next one. So purl 1, 2, knit 1, purl 2, and that was row 16. And now row 17, we're going to slip knit here, knit 1, and then knit 2 together here. So I'm going to pick that up, move it over. That one's pretty easy because we don't have another stitch there. Okay, knit the next stitch, and then knit 2 together. Move it to the middle. All right, and then you're going to work row 18, where we're just, so we got 3 stitches, and we're going to U-knit all. So we're working our way back this direction. So now that we have 3 stitches, we are complete on our main headband, and we need to add another I-cord. So the measurement from here to here is approximately 16 inches, and it's 27 inches from here till the end of your I-cord. So now you're just going to match the length that you made on this I-cord. If you knit this one a little bit longer or shorter, you can just measure to see what your distance was. Otherwise, 11 inches is the ideal. And just a reminder, just go around the back, and then flat knit the front. Okay. And then come around the back and flat knit the front, and continue going until you have that total measurement. It's approximately 38 inches total when you're complete. Then you're going to bind off and weave in the tails, and I'll show you that in just a moment. Pause your video and I'll see you then. All right, so be sure and pull your I-cord to make sure it's the right length, and then go ahead and measure it. And when you're ready, you want to cut a 4-inch tail. Okay, and then we're going to bind off. Now leave this working tail or working yarn back here, and we're going to move the loop from peg 2 onto peg 1. And then we're going to knit over, not using our working yarn, but just lift up and over, and then move from peg 1 onto peg 2. Okay, and then we're going to go from peg 3 and move it onto peg 2, and lift over, so knitting over. And then with the working yarn, we're going to E-wrap, peg 2, and knit over. And then we're going to pull this last loop on through, and we've got it completely bound off. And then you just pull on that yarn, and there you have it. So now you can just take your tail and weave that in. Just take your tapestry needle and go ahead and just weave that right in to the end of that I-cord there. And you can even make like a little finishing knot if you want. And there we go. And then just weave this back on through. So this is a nice little finished end on it. I just pull it right up in through the middle here. And then I'll go back over around one stitch and go back through to lock it in. And then just cut that tail. And then you do the same to the other side. When you're finished with your headband, go ahead and put it on. It'll go behind where your ears are, and it tapers in the back, and just tie it in a bow and enjoy. And if you'd like, you can add on some beads. You could even put those on before you put your slip knot on to have them in there nice and easy. And I hope you enjoyed this pattern. Be sure and comment down below, what would you like to see next at GoodKnit Kisses? Thanks for joining us today, where we help you stitch your love and love your stitches. See you again soon.